Hey, everybody, it is Tony George along with Griffin Murphy from DocSports.com. This is Doc Sports Gridiron Six-Pack. We've been bragging for about, 14 months about how great the show is. And last week, we stunk up the joint, Griff.
Yeah.
Not a good show. You're going to have a losing show every now and then, but ugly last week. So we got what do they call that in the media, social media world? Damage control to do this week, buddy.
I call this nothing more than regression. We hit our peak. We needed to come down and regress and hit another little valley. And now we're going to peak again. And that's exactly where my head's at right now. Already got the slate completely broken down. I started doing my homework on Monday for this because of how bad of a weekend that I had as far as my plays on the show. When it comes to the premiums, we did okay. We'll get into that towards the end of the show. But in my eyes right now, Tony, this is a perfect opportunity to hunker down and get ready for another massive smashing weekend, my man.
Gee, we're all sports handicappers. We're all better than those guys on radio and video and TV. We're gonna go out and join the Circus Survivor contest for $1,000 each, and we're gonna throw out the spread. We're just gonna all we got to do is pick one winner a week. Well, 14,266 people paid $1,000 each, and there is 642 left standing. After 3 weeks, Griff. That's how difficult the NFL has been. And of course, on Sundays, my last 2 weeks, throw in a Monday night or two, I'm 6-1 my last 7. So and 2 top picks banging. So I'm happy with that. College, not so good. We'll talk about what we got on deck this week. Kind of a 50-50, so-so, wishy-washy. Texas Tech came in last week and saved me as a top play, but there was a lot of interesting results in the NFL. We'll get to that. Interesting results in college football. Don't forget to get over to DocSports.com. Take advantage of that free $60 link in the description below. There's a tab on the upper left-hand corner of the website that says free 60. We'll park $60 in a new account. And you can get that with a profit guarantee and zero strings, zero hassles. All you kiddos that are Griffin's age that don't use a laptop, you can use one of these smartphone things here that's smarter than me. You can text the word Tony to 29022, and that'll give you a link. You can sign up on your smartphone. So we give you, that's 3 different ways to get free stuff. So go ahead and sign up and get hooked up this weekend. We're going to go ahead and we're going to fire up in college football here. The redemption tour begins with Griffin Murphy and Tony George in the Big Ten as the Maryland, fear the turtle, the Maryland Terrapins head down to Indiana, who is 4-0 with the new head coach, the new head coaching staff. A lot of James Madison transfers. And speaking of James Madison, they're still scoring on North Carolina. 70. Mac Brown, 70 allowed in a 20-point loss last week. But nonetheless, James Madison didn't miss his coach last week. But Indiana taking care of business. You had them 2 weeks ago. Griff, and I'll tell you something, they have won all 4 games by a minimum of 24 points. That is unbelievable because they were left for dead on the side of the road like old Shep. Done. And the Maryland Terrapins coming in here raised my eyebrows with Maryland earlier this year. Michigan State's supposed to have a down year, not be that good. They were an 8.5-point home favorite to Michigan State and lost straight up. I believe in a 3-point loss there. Griff, Maryland, Billy Edwards, pretty good quarterback, and Indiana rolling. The line is 7, total 53. Indiana, a home favorite by a TD. Your thoughts?
Yeah, Tony. As you mentioned, Maryland coming into this game 3-1 on the season, suffering their lone loss to Michigan State at home in a 27-24 final. I've got to say, Maryland, they're playing very good football under head coach Mike Locksley. I can't take anything from that. Then you have a club like Indiana who's currently undefeated at 4-0. Curtis Roku, has taken over at that quarterback spot for Sorsby, and he has been absolutely lights out. This kid has landed 75% of his passes this season, which is absolutely ridiculous. He's got over 1,000 yards in the air, including 8 touchdowns and 0 picks. Roku has been nothing less than perfect this season. My if factor sits here. Indiana, they have been yet to put to a real test. They're 4-0, but they beat FIU, Western Illinois, UCLA, and Charlotte. 4 teams who have done absolutely nothing this season, despite the fact UCLA did give LSU a little bit of run for their money in the first half of that game, I will say.
Yeah.
But we know 2 very valuable things here with Indiana. They have not allowed more than 14 points this season on the defensive side of the ball. They have also scored more than 40 points in their last 3 games on the offensive side, ranking them 12th in total yards of offense this season. And they are 5th in college football when it comes to points total, averaging 50 points a game, which is absolutely outstanding. Maryland, on the other hand, they've proven a couple things. They've got some pros and cons. They gave both Virginia and Villanova their only losses this season. Both of those teams sitting at 3-1 right now. But they do struggle on one side of the football, and that is deep balls in the secondary. Maryland, they do have a strong defensive front, but Indiana poises a very strong run game with Tyson Lawton in the backfield. Maryland is going to come into this game anticipating the deep ball on the defensive side, as they should, as Roku has been absolutely sensational this season. Indiana's Tyson Lawton has 184 yards on the ground this season, 5 touchdowns, and he's averaging 4.7 yards per carry. He is going to be Indiana's game plan rolling into this matchup. Let's jam them on the rush attack. See if we can control the pace of this game. If the run game is effective, we're going to stick to it. If not, we've got our star quarterback with Curtis Roku for that long ball. So if that does not work, Indiana has yet to fail to disappoint any factor when it comes to the pass game. So where this sets me up here, Tony, is I am setting my eyes here on an underplay. The total is kind of already low. It's sitting at 52.5 points. Maryland, they have a phenomenal offense. They run the ball very well. And they have a great pass game with Billy Edwards leading the charge, as you said. Strength of schedule, that is the key in my eyes. Although Indiana is averaging just 74 yards on the ground against per game and 124 yards in the air against per game, I'm anticipating a very tight matchup here. Indiana is on a bull run in the financial market, so to speak. They're going straight up. And this is where you don't want to lean on a side against them, because I would be leaning Maryland here with the points in this matchup. But you don't go against an undefeated team that's just soaring straight up. So I cannot go against a team that's proven to be ridiculous week in, week out on both sides of the ball. So what I am expecting here is a very hard, close-fought matchup in this matchup. I'm expecting a defensive war. And I wouldn't be surprised if this game ends 27-24, something along those lines, something really tight. And I think that's why the total is at 52.5 points, because that's what the books are expecting, a tight, hard-fought matchup. So, Tony, give me the under in this game at 52.5 points. That's where I'm at with this one, man. I can't lean sides. If I did, I would go Maryland, but I'm not going against an undefeated team who has been absolutely ridiculous all season long with the Indiana Hoosiers. So you guys have my play under 52.5 in that matchup. Now, our next game rolling in. We've got a lot of controversy here. We've got Fresno State at UNLV. UNLV is laying 1.5. The total is sitting at 52.5. This game kicks off on Saturday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, Nevada. Now, UNLV, they sparked up the season with a perfect 3-0 record, Tony. And it's interested. Star quarterback UNLV Sluka will be out in this game, as I just read, due to representations, money. Tony, now the speculation is going on, and Fresno, who has already dealt with them a ton of times, obviously, and they always seem to play them tough. Last season, these two teams played each other. Fresno took that matchup in a 31-24 final. What are your thoughts on this game, Tony?
I'm trying to figure out what that ding is going off about every 2 minutes on the show. We're just going to let it roll, though. We're going to let it roll. I love the ding. I love it. That must be when a thought comes into Griffin's head. A ding goes off. The thought that goes into my head right now is, and I'm going to get up on a soapbox for 1 minute. Nil is ruining college football.
Mm-hmm.
We're not dealing with student athletes anymore. We're dealing with paid athletes. I would be surprised if these kids even go to class, if the NCAA is even monitoring grade point average anymore. This is a perfect example. His stock goes up. He wanted more money. They wouldn't give it to him. He takes a walk, takes a red shirt, and goes somewhere else. There's
Yep.
no loyalty to team. There's no loyalty to the brethren, the camaraderie that you have. The coaches that can somehow bring that into the fold and get you to buy in are rare. I thought Barry Odom was one of those coaches. Maybe he is. Maybe this kid's a jerk off. I don't know. I don't know who's going to pay him a bunch of money when your completion rate is 49% on the year, and he looks to run the ball. And the backup Williams is coming in. They had a 3-way battle for quarterback. It went right down to the final week. I don't see that much of a drop off with Williams going in there. Matter of fact, he's a better runner, elusive type running. And I mean, how good do you got to be to match a 49% completion rate? Bear in mind, too, that the defense of UNLV is no freaking joke. That's Odom's specialty. That's what he did at Missouri before he became head coach. He was a defensive coordinator. He's a good defensive guy. He's a good head coach. UNLV's got a defense that is maybe one of the tops in the Mountain West right now. And Fresno State, they got out-yarded last week by New Mexico, 485 to 345, and still won. Still won. Yep. You saw what happened to Tampa Bay Buccaneers when they out-yarded Detroit, but Detroit shot themselves in the foot a million times, and they won the game. They turn around the next week, and they're exposed. They got smoked by the Broncos, and I think Fresno State's going to get smoked here. We got line value coming out our butt. It was at -4. Plus, this is one of the rare losses that UNLV had last year. Anybody remember the game last year with Fresno State? I do. Wide open in the end zone, the guy dropped the pass to win the game. This is a revenge game at home. And they have not played in almost over 2 weeks. The last time they played Kansas on a Thursday night. Folks, they've had added time to get ready. Odom's a good coach. He'll rally the troops. We're going to win. This is a team deal now. Next man up. I don't think it's a huge drop-off. Give me UNLV minus the 1.5. Matter of fact, money line's around 125. Play the money line. You'd hate to win it 20-19, 30-29, because the total's sitting around 48.5, and it was at 53, so they're expecting a drop-off. And I'm telling you, big plays aren't going by the wayside because UNLV had a quarterback that was throwing 49%. Now everybody's, singing in their beer, crying in their beer about it. Nah, don't worry about it. Give me UNLV to get the job done against Fresno State. Fresno State, better defense at home, laying less than a field goal. Handicapping 101. Check. Now let's go to the SEC and Kentucky taking on Ole Miss. Ole Miss rolling along. Ole Miss was my dark horse favorite to win the SEC. I got a little futures money on them. They're a good football team. Lane Kiffin did a great job in the transfer portal, as always. Got a lot of quality guys in there. Still got Dart at quarterback. The guys throwing dimes all over. They're loaded. Ole Miss is loaded. And Kentucky, they played 2 good teams this year, Georgia and South Carolina, and got beat by both of them. South Carolina give them an ass whipping. Now, Georgia, their claim to fame is a 13-12 ball game. When they had every chance to win it. And whether Kentucky or whether Georgia overlooked them or whatever, my bad, because I didn't watch that game. I was busy that Sunday, and I did get a chance to see how that unfolded, this, that, or the other. But Kentucky, on the road, A team that played Georgia to 1 point is a 17.5 point underdog right now, total 53. So they're expecting Kentucky to play some defense. Do the majority of those points come from Ole Miss? I don't know. That's why I'm asking Griffin Murphy.
Yeah, Tony. I mean, I have to open this up with how incredible Ole Miss has been as a team this far this season. I mean, they're 4-0, unbeaten on the season. They're first in college football when it comes to total yards of offense. They're first in college football when it comes to the pass game, and they have an absolute flamethrower of an arm with Jackson Dart leading the charge. When you want to talk about throwing darts, well, this kid throws darts, to say the least. This kid is absolutely a smoke show at that quarterback spot. Jackson Dart is drilling nearly 80% of his passes this season. He's thrown for over 1,500 yards, 12 touchdowns, and 2 picks. Thing is, Ole Miss hasn't really played anybody worth paying attention to this season. Although, regardless to this statement, Ole Miss has allowed 1 touchdown all season long on the defensive side. Their rush game is incredible. Their pass game is the best in the business. And on the defensive side, they are averaging just 34 yards on the ground against per game, which is absolutely unheard of. Everyone, including myself, expected a complete bust of a season out of this Kentucky team, out of their first 2 games of the season. But now we've seen a little bit of a mismatch, a little flop. South Carolina here right now, they're no joke now. We could see that. We're 4 games in. They're a legitimate football squad, and they're much better than I anticipated going into this season. That was followed up by a Georgia matchup, which did result regardless the circumstances. We're talking about the number 1 team in the country. I don't care what the circumstances were, how they came out to play, whatever. The game final finished at 13-12. And then beating the hell out of Ohio following that game in a 41-6 final. That is momentum in my eyes. The team is finally coming together, and this is going to be one of their first true tests of the season. But as professional handicappers, we do not want to wager games on test games. We want to wager games on magnified edge matchups, calculated risk. We're not here to gamble. We're here to calculate everything and then make our decision. Well, we haven't seen that yet out of this club. So where does that bring us again? That brings us to the total, sitting at 53.5 points right now. Kentucky destroyed Georgia when it comes to time of possession, securing the ball for 35 minutes of that game, whilst Georgia only pertained 25 minutes. That game was followed by a crapshoot against Ohio in a blowout winner. And we can pay attention to Kentucky. They did have 6 penalties in that game that cost them 45 yards on top of that. This is a key note for me here, Tony. Kentucky, they were 7 for 13 when it came to third down conversions against Ohio, and Ohio is obviously a brutal club. So now, in this game, the conversion rate is going to be a much lower percent of execution, considering the fact you're playing an Ole Miss defense who hasn't given up a touch. They've given up 1 touchdown, I think, all season long. So where does this game lead me again? To another underplay. Can Kentucky's offense sustain this Ole Miss defense? Absolutely not. But for the most part, maybe. But Kentucky, they have finally found that rhythm they were looking for on the defensive side, holding Georgia to just 262 yards of total offense. And that game was followed by holding Ohio to just 223 yards of offense. Do I believe Ole Miss is going to roll over Kentucky in this game? Yeah, I do. But 17.5 points for me, Tony, for a team who's allowed less than 500 yards on the ground in their last 2 games, including against the number 1 team in the country, this game to me is another underplay for me. I am not laying the points with Ole Miss, as I anticipate this Kentucky defense got their crap together, and they're going to be a much more higher suspect when it comes to the defensive side of the ball. So, Tony, looking at this matchup, I'd love to lay the points here with Ole Miss, as they are a much better team, and we still haven't seen that Kentucky thrive off that we're looking for back to the 101, the sports betting 101. So, give me the under in this game, Tony, as well, sitting at 53.5 points. Tony?
I agree with you. I predict 28-10, right around that spread. I'd be surprised if Kentucky scored more than 10 points, and I think they'll hold them under 30, maybe 35, just because they're the number 1. They can strike at any moment. But you brought up a good point, and both your Indiana and your Ole Miss assessments, and something I want to tell all the listeners out there. This is not the week to be laying huge numbers because you've seen a lot out of a lot of big name teams that have been very impressive in terms of putting up big numbers, scores, this, that, and the other. But 75 to 100% of the teams they played are nobodies. They're nobodies. Now you're getting into conference action. Now you're getting into the meat and potatoes of the season. This is when the rubber meets the road. And you're going to see a little bit more realistic, competitive. The noose gets a little tighter. They're playing teams that are familiar with their players, familiar with their schemes, because they play them every year. They have a history. They know about the venue they're going to go play in, or they know about the venue they're bringing them into. So at the end of the day, you're going to see some tighter games this weekend than you've seen in the first 3-4 weeks. In my opinion, look at Nebraska. Everybody was high on Nebraska last week, and I gave out a free play, bet them in the first half. Don't bet them in the second half because they can't close out a game. They stayed true to form, but they also played, I know they played Colorado, which Colorado has no defense. And, I don't think much of Colorado, honestly. They don't have a complete team, and they don't have an offensive line at all. But you found out when they played a well-rounded, fundamentally sound football team, and everybody was anointing Nebraska, they're going to go 7-0 before they finally lose one. Guess what? Then at home, you come up against a good football team in conference action opened up as a 9-point favorite, closed at 7.5, but perceived to win a game, and then you don't. Maryland beat the hell out of a couple of people. Then they played a conference game against Michigan State at home like Nebraska. The rubber met the road. What happened? You didn't cover. You got your ass kicked. Same thing with Nebraska. That's going to happen this weekend, folks. Griff, I don't know if you agree with me or not, but I think we're going to see a lot more competitive games this week.
Tony, we're on the exact same page, and that is something as we give out at the end of the show, we tell everybody what we have going out. Well, I will be explaining my end on that aspect as well to coincide with exactly what you just broke down about what I will be revealing this weekend in my premium selections when it comes to the college football side of things. So couldn't agree with you anymore, man. But having said that, let's shift gears right now into the NFL. And we've got Pittsburgh rolling into Indy. And this line, it keeps shifting, and this whole game kind of confuses me in a sense. We've got Pittsburgh rolling into Indy right now. Current line, they're laying 1.5 points. We have a total sitting at 39.5, and that total keeps adjusting. This game kicks off on Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern time in Indianapolis at Lucas Oil Stadium. I want to open this game up right now with talking about Justin Fields. God, does he look nice in that Pittsburgh uniform. And would I love to have that kid back in Chicago now that I'm dealing with Caleb Williams. Give me a mother break. Oh, my Lord, man. Pittsburgh currently stands 3-0 unbeaten, and Indy is coming off one of the worst wins that I have ever seen in NFL football. That was the worst. That was the worst game I have ever watched in my entire life, man. I swear to God. The question I have to ask myself isn't even relating to this matchup, but who's worse, Anthony Richardson or Caleb Williams? We'll get to that in the next game. Richardson coming off a win, going 10 for 20 in his pass completion. So again, now we've got back-to-back weeks where he's passed for 50% completion rate. Then 0 touchdowns and 2 interceptions in his most recent matchup. The scheme here for Indy is going to be relying on Taylor in the backfield to get the offensive run game going. Pittsburgh right now, they're second in the NFL when it comes to defending the rush. So the question we have to ask ourselves here is, why is Pittsburgh only laying 1.5 points in this game, Tony?
I don't know. A couple of reasons. Public perception, maybe, that Pittsburgh was picked not to be that good, not to contend for a division title. Baltimore was going to run away with it and have a dogfight with Cincinnati. How's that working out? Guess what? Guess who sits on top of the division? The Pittsburgh Steelers. And Justin Fields, you might not see Russell Wilson. I mean, they're paying him $1.2 million. I mean, trust me, the Broncos are still paying him, but you're not. Mike Tomlin is not going to rock the boat. Why would you? Why would you? You got it. This is simple to me. Indy, you want to talk about how bad Chicago is? Well, that might be true, but Chicago last week out-yarded them 395 to 306 and still lost.
Yep.
Dude, that tells you one thing. Indianapolis couldn't find their ass in a spotlight with oversized gloves. I don't know what they're doing. And the quarterback position is a total mess. You've got the team with the better deal. By the way, TJ Watt is a beast. He is an absolute beast. You got to completely game plan around him. You know, he disrupts. The closest thing that I can come up with him is Lawrence Taylor back in the day, LT, for the Giants. You had to devise your offensive game plan around him. You know, there are very few guys that can affect games like him. Crosby maybe at LA, you know, Hendricks at Cincinnati's kind of a beast. You got a couple of these guys you got to worry about. I'm leaving somebody out. If you're playing Dallas, even though he's not defensive end, you got to worry about where Micah Parsons is at. I mean, there's a few of you got to worry about where Chris Jones is at for Kansas City and double team him if you're going to try and run on him, that sort of thing. And Watt's one of those guys that's going to give Richardson a lot of problems. Better defense, better quarterback, better coach. Money line. Pittsburgh Steelers minus 120, 125. Get on it. Let's switch gears. You guys, you can tell Griffin is not in Vegas. He is in Chicago. He obviously missed Gino's East deep dish pizza, so he's back there trying to put some weight on. Last time I saw him, he weighed about 135 pounds. Looked like you were auditioning for a Tom Hanks role in the movie Castaway. That's after he was stranded on the island for 5 years.
He's caught up, man. Come on, give me a break.
So anyway, you got the LA Rams last week who got out-yarded by 129 yards, ended up winning a game. Sean McVay, coach of the year so far. Again, just like last year, the Rams were not predicted to do jack crap last year and ended up in the playoffs. And they gave Detroit all they wanted. You know, Detroit went all the way down to play San Fran to get to the Super Bowl. I mean, so the Rams, his coaching is off the chart. And they were beat up. San Francisco was beat up, but they managed to win that game. They could have beat Detroit earlier this year, another division opponent of the Bears. Mm-hmm. I think they're playing the Central this year. Or, pardon me, the North now is what they call it. But Chicago, for some reason, finds ways to lose games. They make bad coaching decisions. You've got a rookie quarterback that's making bad decisions because he's forced to, because he's on the run. This kid's running for his life. This is how you ruin a quarterback with a lot of talent. Now he's surrounded by weapons, but you're finding out the most important thing in the NFL is the trench warfare that goes on. And Chicago is losing that battle. And then they don't know how to win a game. When you out-yard a team 90 yards in the NFL, you usually beat them. They didn't last week, even though they out-yarded the Colts, who have a bad quarterback. By the way, just so you know, the Rams don't have a bad quarterback. They got a good quarterback. And by the way, how many times has Matt Stafford played at Soldier Field in his career? This isn't his first trip to Soldier Field. The Rams catching 3, total 41, Griff.
Yeah, Tony, before I do get into this breakdown, as you guys do keep hearing that ding, ding, my phone is off, but it's also incorporated with my laptop, which I typically do these shows off of my PC. So I do apologize for the dings keep going off. And this aggravation that I have right now is going to go into my breakdown right now with this Chicago Bears team. I'm going to keep as much emotion as possible out of this breakdown, but at the same time, I am going to rip this team apart right now. I am. So opening this game up,
don't
I want
gamble angry. Don't gamble angry. I've sat with you
ever.
with Circa before. I go, don't gamble angry, Griff. Pull back on that blackjack hand. Get that he loses a little bit in blackjack. The stat keeps getting bigger. I keep pulling it back for him. That's drink money. Calm down, buddy. Come on.
It's like betting on Hawaii, right, Tony? Oh, man. All right, so going right into this game, obviously we are aware, and the line sitting at 2.5 is for a very obvious reason. For the Rams, you've got Cooper Kupp, who's out, and you have Puka Nacua, who's out, who are both, if not, I mean, obviously they're the best receivers on the Rams, but if not, let alone best receivers in all of football. So they will not be playing in this matchup. So that does go in the Bears' favor. I have to say, this Chicago Bears team, with no emotion, this is the worst organization I've ever seen in football, hands down, and this has been ongoing for a decade now. The Bears, Caleb Williams at the quarterback spot. I know it's early. I'm aware of that. But what I have seen out of him this far, he's probably a bust. I'm jumping the gun a little bit. I am, because there's a lot of back take that we can go there. But what I have seen out of this kid has been atrocious. He has had opportunities to find guys in the end zone. He has had opportunities to find guys on the deep ball. And he's thrown passes that are screens 2 yards away, and he's completely overshooting them, underthrowing them. He's all over the map. He's terrible. I everything that I've seen out of him so far, I dislike. I am so pissed off about the decision. I said from the beginning, you keep Justin Fields, you let the kid play 7, 8 games after he's acquired those games, and if he's still not getting the job done, you let the backup then come in, settle in, and play, and accept the fact that you're going to have a losing season and let this kid get his reps in. What did we do as an organization again? Exact opposite. Now, going into this deeper, the Bears, they have the worst offensive pass protection I've ever seen in my life. DeAndre Swift, another huge bust for the Bears. On top of that, that coincides with their offensive line. He's not impressed me whatsoever on the ground, let alone his receiving yards. He's supposed to be a 1-2 back. This guy's doing nothing on the receiving side of things. The Bears, they do have a strong defense, but this is overhyped. Let me tell everybody, the Bears defense is overhyped. It is not as good as everybody is saying it is. Richardson had guys wide open all game long in their previous matchup against Indy. And he was just god-awful with his accuracy, which we've seen all season long. We may have been a bit too high on Houston as well this season, as they have yet to impress me as well. So the Bears thus far, they've dealt with Indy, they've dealt with Houston, and they've dealt with Tennessee. Houston, I believe, has 1 win on the season. Or maybe 2. Tennessee, winless. Indianapolis, terrible team, as you guys just saw across both sides of the spectrum. They suck. They're not a good football team. Now, you have to deal with a veteran, Matthew Stafford. As Tony mentioned, he spent the majority of his career playing in Detroit against the Bears in the NFC North, probably over 10 to 15 times. And he has always wrecked them. Always. For this matter, the Rams, they are a passing team. And regardless, if Stafford has a man open, he's the type of quarterback who will connect. He will connect with his receivers. You're not going to see him like Anthony Richardson or Caleb Williams, 30 yards over their heads, anything like that. Stafford's going to land a guy when he finds him open. LA, coming off a win against San Fran last week, putting up 27 points on the offensive side in a 27-24 final. They're 1-2 on the year, but these are the teams they've dealt with already. Detroit, very good football club. Yes, we had our if factors going into the season about how's Goff going to perform. Is he going to be the guy? I mean, obviously he's going to be the guy, but how well of a guy is he going to perform? Well, thus far, he's been performing pretty well. Then Arizona. Nobody really knew this going into the season, although myself and I know Tony knew. Arizona is a much better team than the public has given credit to them. And then beating the 49ers last week. Well, the 49ers are a good football club. Are they as good as they were last season? No. But they're still a very top 5, top 10 team in the NFL by all means. So I can't figure this line out despite all of this. This is just a public line in my eyes. Other than Cooper Kupp, and Puka being out in this game, I think the Rams still like the Chicago Bears team up in Chicago, considering the fact Stafford has been here so many times. He's a veteran quarterback. He lived in Detroit. He thrived in the NFC North. So my play here is taking the Rams, take those 3 points, and don't be surprised if they beat them outright. But because the line is sitting at +3 and under, always be smart with these situations. Take the play, take the points. If they were laying on the other side, you would take a money line, -135 to -145. But getting 3 points in this game, my play in this one, Tony, is taking the Rams at that +3 points, and I would not be surprised if they win this game outright, Tony.
Yeah, definitely be part of a teaser leg. Get them up to +9. Faux show. I
Like it.
also would be a bit surprised to see this be a shootout. I think under 41 might be in play. I don't know what
Yep.
Chicago's going to do, but I know their defense keeps them in games. The one thing I got 2 words for you. I want you to think about this. You did have that pick in the draft, Jaden Daniels. Now there is a rookie quarterback, and this leads me to tell you what I think the problem with Chicago is. I don't know if Williams is a bust, but I know one thing, that coaching staff is. You take a
Oh,
look You take a look at the Washington Redskins. They have a very, very similar situation. They almost mirror Chicago. They got a rookie quarterback. They recruited, they transferred, drafted, and free agent in like Zach Ertz, some other guys at skill positions to surround him with some talent. Chicago even has a better defense than what Washington has. And Washington goes on national television. Jaden Daniels sets an all-time record in the NFL for a rookie. He completed 91% of his passes, 23 out of 25, and 2 touchdowns, dropping dimes all over the place, taking off running, not turning the ball over, and making good decisions. Why is that? Dan Quinn, Cliff Kingsbury. There's 2 good coaches, both of them. Quinn obviously was a head coach before, a longtime defensive coordinator. Kingsbury, a head coach, and also a very successful in the NFL, and also a very successful head coach in college at Texas Tech. So you're surrounded by good, talented coaching. And Williams, with an equal skill set, many thought weren't as good as Jaden Daniels, and built a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger. And look where he's at. And you saw some chinks in the armor when the tough got going when he was at USC. He was kind of immature at certain points. And how do you overcome that and succeed in the NFL? Coaching. You don't have it there.
Tony,
I think that's a lot of the problem.
I mean, I couldn't agree with you anymore, Tony, and especially you bringing up the Jaden Daniels situation. I mean, if you're going to have an offensive line as atrocious as the Bears do, you better find a quarterback that can run on his feet, because Caleb Williams has done everything but that. No, he's done nothing. He's done absolutely nothing. But going even deeper into this breakdown, before we pass it over to the Tony Teasum, I want to talk about this because, Tony, you know my favorite conference, Pac-12. All season last year, that was my conference. When you talk about Michael Penix, Bo Nix, Caleb Williams, and then you've got Daniels. I mean, you have all of these quarterbacks and all this speculation. I hated the move. I hated Caleb Williams going first round, first pick. That was not my play. I loved Bo Nix, and I loved Daniels. You got Daniels coming out of the SEC, the big leagues. That is where college football players thrive at. If they are playing good football in the SEC, well, that's somebody to look at. Coming out of the Pac-12, not necessarily the conference, or not necessarily the competition is going to be anywhere near what you're used to seeing. So this is a huge flop for the Bears. And as you see, Daniels, this is a quarterback. He's a liability for one reason, because he runs so much. The Bears, it does not matter the circumstances. When you have no offensive line, you need a guy who can move on his feet. Caleb Williams is not doing that by any means. Bo Nix, on the other hand, with Denver, the guy, everybody was hating on him last season for his passing completions, because I believe he only threw, like 50% of his passes, under 35% of his passes were either 25 yards or less, and that was why everybody was so low on him. Look what he's done for Denver. I don't care, despite the record. He's playing very good, consistent football. He's drilling his targets. He's accurate in the pocket, and he's playing like a very good football player. I hated the move on Caleb Williams. This USC team, they were not impressive by any means last season, and the only thing that they talked about was Caleb Williams, how he carried the boat. They barely finished the season. I don't even think they had a winning record. So, Tony, going to that, I hate the move on Williams. Now I'm putting emotion into this with this crap Chicago Bears team, again, that I'm dealing with, watching week in, week out, and I'm giving out free plays for everybody to bet against them this week, which makes me sick because now I have to root against them on Sunday when all I want them to do is win. Tony, I'm pissed off. You know what? Let's flip the script here and hit him with the Tony teaser, bang him. God, man.
Right there.
There it is. Right, yeah, let's throw a flag. Let's throw a flag.
Yeah, come on. We don't get pass interference calls in the end zone. We win games, baby. Come out. Cheers to that. Take Kansas City, tease them down off of 8 to -2. They're up to 9 now. Get them at -3 if you still can. Get them early. Chargers are beat up. Looks like I don't know if Herbert's going to play or not. He's not 100% if he does. The injury bug has bit them. Kansas City's very good. You know what's scary with Kansas City being 3-0? They haven't played a good game all year long. They have not played a good game all year long. Kelsey's not playing that good. Mahomes isn't playing that good. Pacheco's out, and they're still winning. That should concern everybody. And now Kansas City is the Tom Brady / New England Patriots team of the 2020s. They're winning. And at first, everybody loved it. And Taylor Swift, oh, how sweet. Kelsey's got a girlfriend. And now it's middle finger to him every week. And everybody hates Kansas City. Bring it. Bring it. Chargers ain't going to beat us. I'm not going to lay 8 or 9 with Kansas City because they're a horrible team to lay big numbers with. Horrible team. I laid 3.5 for them last week in the Circa Millions contest. By the way, back-to-back 4-1 weeks in the Circa Millions. I'm in the top, I think I'm in the top 100 right now, right there. So come on. I'm going to hang out at 6,000 guys. And my other one, Minnesota Vikings tease them up, take them plus 8.5. I don't care whether Jordan Love plays or not. I don't think he is. And I think Malik Willis is going to meet his match here. I gave out a free play on Houston. I've never been so embarrassed in my life. Minnesota, I didn't believe. It usually takes a couple of weeks for a team, 2 or 3 weeks to really find a team's identity and figure out if it's a fluke or if it's real or it's not real. As Griffin discussed about his Bears, they're going down a path and they've established their identity. It's not a good one. The Minnesota Vikings, on the other hand, by the way, that's a division opponent, have established their identity. They're playing great football. They beat the San Francisco 49ers when they were healthier than they were against the Rams. They beat the 49ers, and they beat them. And then Houston, who's a very good football team that is extremely well coached and does not have a lot of weaknesses, they took him out behind the woodshed like O'Shep and just beat the dog piss out of him. So give me Minnesota plus 8.5 along with Kansas City teased down. For your 2-team 6-point teaser, I will have another 7-unit. I'm on a 6-1 run. My last 7 Sunday NFL plays. Throw in a Monday night or two. I don't do too many Monday nighters. But I have a really strong NFL card this week at DocSports.com. A college football, I have a 6-unit top pick on a 3-pack. I'm going to keep it low volume because I think this is a very, very, very dangerous weekend in college football for a lot of reasons that we discussed earlier if you weren't paying attention. Griff, what do you got going on?
Tony, we're on the same page here, my man. Right now on the football season and a wholesome, I am currently, I want to say 19-6 or 19-7 across all of my college football and NFL selections. Same thing for me with you this weekend, Tony. Last weekend, I'm coming off a college football 6-unit best bet winner. And then on Sunday, I did split. I had 4 plays. I went 2-2, and I dropped my 7-unit best bet. That brings me to 11-2, dating back to last season when it comes to 13 consecutive 7-unit winners. So I am now 11-2 in my last 13 7-units when it comes to NFL. So, NFL side of things, same motion, baby. I've got 3 plays on Sunday, including a 7-unit best bet already broken down and ready to rip. And when it comes to Saturday, I will be playing small. I will have a 6-unit best bet, only 2 plays on tap. Very, very controlled weekend when it comes to college football for all the reasons that we just mentioned on this show. And obviously, Tony exposed them all. And that's exactly where I'm sitting at. So again, 2 plays on tap Saturday, 6-unit best bet, 7 plays on, or I'm sorry, 3 plays on Sunday, 7-unit best bet, 11-2 dating back to last season on my 7-unit best bet winners when it comes to NFL. So 10-2 on the season, looking to make it a big weekend and hopefully get the brooms out and sweep them up, Tony.
Yeah, and we have another doubleheader on Monday Night Football this week, believe it or not. Back-to-back doubles on Monday Night Football. Tennessee and Miami, 2 underachievers at a pick'em. Seattle at Detroit on Monday night as well. So I'm sure Griff and I will each have a pick on Monday night. Maybe, I know I'm going to. There's one there to me that's real attractive. So, and it's not. I'll say one thing before we get out of there, since we're on the NFL a little bit, just real quickly. Tennessee could be 3-0. If that quarterback didn't turn the ball over, they could be 3-0. And we found out one thing right now. The Miami Dolphins don't have a quarterback. They don't get Tua back. They're dorked all year. They can't do anything under Skylar Thompson. You can read all about it at DocSports.com. Come over and visit me and Griff this weekend. Thanks for tuning in. Let's do better on the show we did last week. And we appreciate you leaving comments. We'll check them out in the comments section. And we're going to row the boat this weekend, like PJ Flex says, at Minnesota University. And whatever you do this weekend, do not lay 10 with Nebraska on the road at Purdue. Thanks for tuning in, folks.